Hello, and welcome back to another edition of...
Not trains and trams, but trolley buses and trams.
Oh, okay, and what have we got in store today, Charlie?
Today we've got facts about the Ipswich Transport Museum and our thoughts on a model trolley bus that we both have.
That's right, so yeah, before we get looking at the Ipswich Transport Museum, which may be opening again soon, we're going to be taking a look at this really, really cool trolley bus that we've got. A model of a trolley bus made by Corgi. What can you tell us about it, Charlie?
Well, the type of trolley bus is a Carrier W trolley bus.
Uh-huh.
The one I've got is painted in the Ipswich livery.
Yep.
And it's got quite a flat front, and yeah, I don't know much about trolley buses at all.
Doesn't matter. Say what you can see. What I can see here, mate, is that it's interesting how the Ipswich livery included them to have red or orangey red wheels. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
And that was apparent in some of the motor vehicles as well, some of the buses that followed the trolley bus, which I've always found quite amazing. It's a very striking livery. On the side, it actually has some advertising, because before the internet, that's the biggest and best place to advertise, is on a moving trolley bus. What have we got on the side here?
Well, we've got on the side of this trolley bus, Trolley Kobold.
That's right. And Trolley Kobold, they used to be a very local brewer of beers and all sorts of, well, I think it's just beers and ales, to be honest. And if we turn it round, we've got some more advertising on the other side. What's that say, mate?
Brett's for Furniture, Hyde Park Corner.
Yep. So yeah, and even there we've got the telephone number as well, 52327, which, yeah, it's a digit short from what we're used to today. Brett's for Furniture. I think Brett's might still be going. If not, I think it was going until not so long ago. A really cool trolley bus. Can you tell us any facts about this particular trolley bus or trolley buses in general?
Well, the person who invented trolley buses was Ernest Werner Simons,
Yep.
and he invented them in Berlin, and they're originally called the Electromote.
Yeah, the Electromote. Good stats and good facts there, mate. And why were they made? Because there's quite an interesting theory on that, isn't there?
Well, why they were made for England is the trams and tram tracks were starting to wear out.
Yeah.
And people were having concerns over the safety of the trams by having rails in the middle of the road. So they decided keep the electric wires, but replace the tram and bring in one that ran on its own wheels.
Yeah, well, you've got more flexibility then, haven't you, I suppose,
Yeah.
to some extent. But there would be a bit of a problem, because these things here, if we have a little look, I'll be very careful, Charlie. We've got where the electricity would make a connection, that would sometimes come off. So they would actually have somebody with a pole that would come and put it back on. So although it was a development on the tram, I think it's still a bit flawed in a way. But what else can we have a look at there? How long did they run from? I mean, in particular in Ipswich, was it 10 years, 5 years?
In Ipswich, they ran for almost exactly 40 years.
What? 40 years?
From 1923 to 1963.
My goodness me. And they replaced all the trams by, I mean, was it just one of those things that happened, boom, like that? Or what year did they replace the trams by?
It took 3 years for all the trams in Ipswich to be taken out of service. And so that was in 1926.
So by 1926, not a sight of a tram.
But that wasn't the case in the rest of England. In England, the last ever tram in service was 1952.
My goodness me, that's incredible. And of course, I still think that they're used all over the world still, aren't they? Sort of trams in some way.
Some places still use trams.
Okay.
Such as San Francisco, that still uses a few trams. But trolley buses are also still used in some places in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Russia use quite a lot of trolley buses.
Do they really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They're quite famous for doing that.
Ah, okay. Well, I suppose it's a mode of transport, and well, it's a beautiful mode of transport. And isn't it interesting that we're going back to electric vehicles now? Everything seems to be heading that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I read up on an article that apparently some places are planning to bring back trolley buses due to it cutting carbon emissions.
Yeah, well, it does, doesn't it? And it does seem like we've almost gone backwards in a way, where we're using the combustion engine in buses, especially the old diesels. They were really, really, really bad. But yeah, talking about trams and the replacement, of course, being the trolley bus, there is a tram at Ipswich Transport Museum that you've been on that I haven't.
I have been on it. My primary school took us on a trip.
Yeah.
And we were allowed to eat lunch on one of the vehicles, and no one could decide, so we had a vote, and me and the teacher both voted the tram, and no one else really voted, so we got to eat our lunch inside on top of a double-decker tram.
And do you know how old this particular tram is?
I'm not quite sure. I don't remember much about that visit because it was a while ago now.
Okay, I think it's pushing, if not already, I think it's pushing 100 years old. And they fully restored it. And now, that's the reason why we've brought up this particular tram, because Ipswich Transport Museum is reopening.
Yeah, Ipswich Transport Museum should be reopening on May the 23rd from 11 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Excellent. Excellent. Are you going to go?
I think I probably will sometime in the summer holiday.
Yep. Defo. I think I'll wait for it for the nice weather to come out as well.
Seems like a plan.
Excellent, man. Excellent. But, Ipswich Transport Museum wasn't always a museum, was it?
Originally, it was an old trolley bus depot, and I believe that probably was one of the best things it could have ever been for a transport museum, since it would have already had the electric cables running through it.
Would have done indeed. And also a lot of the maintenance areas, pits and stuff, so they can get underneath to service them. They're all there. So Ipswich Transport Museum is quite incredible. When did it become a museum? Do we know?
It originally became a museum in 1965, but wasn't open to the public until sometime around 1980, I believe.
Okay, yeah, and I think it was the 90s where it became, much more well advertised, I guess.
Yeah.
And people come from all over. And have you been to any of the open days at the Transport Museum before? I mean, I know it's open in general, but I mean special events that they do.
I went to one once where they got a lot of old Land Rovers to go there.
Yep.
And they had all the different ages, going from the very beginning to about 1975-ish. Land Rovers, and the museum brought out their Land Rovers, and a bunch of collectors brought theirs as well.
My goodness me. Hey, that's another podcast in itself about Land Rovers. What did you think of the Land Rover?
I think the Land Rover's definitely a very good car, and even though it's a copy of the Jeep, I still think the Land Rover's better than the Jeep.
Gotcha. I didn't really like Land Rovers until recently. I've started to really appreciate them. I think they are, I agree with you wholeheartedly, they are such a wonderful vehicle. But whilst you're at Ipswich Transport Museum, don't forget you can, of course, go to the souvenir shop. And we've got something here that you've bought from the souvenir shop, is that right?
Well, I didn't buy it, my grandfather bought it for me.
Okay.
But this is a little matchbox tram.
Mhm.
I believe it's HO scale, which is 1 to 87, which is the American version of OO scale, which is much better because it's English. And that's 1 to 76. But this one also has advertisement on it. It is Swan Vestas.
Yeah, it's Swan Vestas, and that's a sign of the times, because I think I don't know what Vestas are. I think they might be, cigarette papers or something like that, which of course these days is banned. Anything else on the top? Oh yeah, we've got some more stuff. It says Horlicks malted milk. I think that's a drink. And there's another one which I can't quite work out.
I can't read that either.
I mean, binoculars, I think. Spin around, see if yep, same on the other side. And this is a London Transport tram.
Yeah.
Right, excellent stuff. But before we head down the tracks to finish the podcast today, Charlie, we've got another tram with us, haven't we?
Yeah, this little tram I don't know much about, but I thought I'd bring it along since it's the newest addition to my collection, and I've only had it 1.5 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
My goodness me. It's got a sprung-loaded connection on the top by the looks of it, and it's really cool. Can I read it out, what it says on the side?
Yeah.
Or do you want to read it out? I'm only saying that because I think it's in Belgian.
Yeah, it's in German, I think.
Oh, German rather, sorry.
I think these are the destinations. I haven't quite figured it out, but there's Bahnhof, Magdeburgstrasse, Steinstrasse, Markt, which I think is Market, and Steinweg.
Steinweg. Do you know what Strasse is?
I think it's street.
Good man, perfect. Your German is incredible, brilliant stuff. I love it. It's brilliant. And Startbahnhall. I wonder what that is. The Startbahnhall.
I think that may be the company that made the actual tram, not the model, but the tram.
That's really, really, really cool. Yes. And the number 4 as well. And the detail on that is quite something. Who's it made by? Do you know? 'Cause it's got no maker on it.
I believe it's made by Atlas, which is also one of the companies where I've got a lot of my other trams from.
Yeah.
They make all their trams in HO scale.
Oh, so this is the same scale as the red one?
Yes,
Oh, you can see it's much smaller though, isn't it?
definitely.
Maybe there'll be a picture of this for the artwork for the podcast, so people can see what we're looking at. Fantastic. Is there anything else we want to mention before we say ta-ra?
Believe that's it.
Brilliant. Have we got anything in store for next week, or perhaps any sort of teasers as to what we might be looking at?
Not sure yet.
Not sure yet. It's an open platform. We don't know. All I can say is I've been Jay, and thank you very much for joining us.
I'm Charlie, and again, thank you for listening.
We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.